Okay, thank you so much for making the time to do this today.
Absolutely.
So as I know, you are CEO of Andos, and you are a leadership and mindfulness coach and a keynote speaker.
Yes.
So how about we jump into Andos? How did you develop this company? What was the, how did it come about?
Yeah. Well, I've been working as a strategy consultant for almost 20 years, developing customer processes and customer profitability and creating strategies. And then about 10 years ago, when I was on my third and last maternity leave, I started reading about the mind and mindfulness and so on, and learned quite a lot about that myself. And then I thought back to all of those companies where I have been kind of doing these strategic projects, and thought that if we only had understood how the mind works, many of those projects would also have been easier to implement and to kind of follow through.
Okay.
So that's why I wanted to start coaching leaders in understanding how the mind works, and how through first understanding how your mind works, you then are more able to lead other people as well, but start from leading yourself.
Wonderful. Do you have an example of a project, for instance, that where mindfulness would have helped more?
Well, all projects.
Okay.
It's very much, especially if it's a change project somehow, or a transition project, when people are kind of struggling with uncertainty or change or unexpected events, when we often are feeling insecure. So understanding what that actually is. What are we experiencing when we are experiencing something? And that's actually the definition of mindfulness. So understanding. Yeah. So what am I experiencing? How can I be aware of what I'm experiencing while I'm experiencing it?
Okay.
And through that understanding, then how can I help myself and how can I help others?
Where did the passion for mindfulness come from? Did it come from the lack of it in strategic projects, or was it something deeper than that, like when you were a child? Or
no, it was actually now in my adult life, and when working with leaders and strategy projects. And also a part of the thanks goes to my husband, who also started practicing mindfulness with me 10 years ago. And he's in a leading position in an organization, and he kind of talking with him about his experiences, how that had helped him in his leadership and his work. Was very kind of motivational for me also, so kind of gave me even more trust that this is the thing to do.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
What could you give me 3 examples of how do you practice mindfulness?
Well, you can practice either kind of in a formal way through meditation, which is the kind of the moment where you really sit and practice mindfulness. And then the other part is to implement that into your everyday life. So it's more of a quality of being aware and being present in your life while it happens. And you actually need both and. So you need to do the formal practices. That's kind of the mental gym where you train your muscles. And then being mindfully aware is, using the muscles in your everyday life.
All right. Wow. Okay, I would like to go a little bit further into mindfulness. Now when we have everything going online and becoming digital, is there now increased demand for mindfulness? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I would say so, because we are so overwhelmed by everything now, by information, by Teams and Zoom meetings and so on and so forth. It's so easy to kind of lose yourself in that all. So mindfulness is also very much a prerequisite for self-leadership. And I think that's what's needed now today in these digital times, that as your days are packed with meetings and stuff happening all the time, you need to lead yourself, consciously lead yourself in order to cope with all that. And mindfulness is the platform on which you can stand, so that you have the ability to lead yourself, really.
Right.
Yeah.
You have 3 children? Yes. Are you teaching them mindfulness?
I try to. Yes, obviously, of course, in when it comes in, so that it sits in the situation. But they tend to already know. Now, if I try to advise them somehow, they go, yeah, we know, breathe. Yeah.
Is that one of the biggest things for you?
The breathing actually is the tool in mindfulness, because we breathe all the time, and the breathing happens always in the here and now. There is no tomorrow's breaths or yesterday's breaths, but breathing is each breath is unique and it happens here. And much of the stress that we are experiencing is about the future or the past. So our stress often is related to something that is about to happen. We worry about the future, or then we carry with us some, problems or miseries from the past. So our minds tend to be somewhere else, but our bodies are always here. And breathing is the tool for you to anchor yourself to the here and now. And that's where you can be calm. Even if your mind is going like crazy, you can find calmness. I always say that mindfulness is actually finding this calm state of mind, even if your mind is racing. So they coexist. You can be stressed and mindful at the same time.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, say someone is in an incredibly stressful situation. How do they alter their breathing to impact that, like with mindfulness?
Well, breathing you can impact really physically. So, for example, just by prolonging your exhale. Because when we have a longer exhale than our inhale, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one taking care of calming down and relaxing and settling down. And so we can really kind of consciously or deliberately, so long exhale. But then also breathing can be a reminder for us to, get some distance to our thoughts and emotions. So you go, okay, what's happening? If I'm this anxious, for example, what does it consist of? What am I actually thinking? What am I actually feeling? And once we get some, names, some labels onto our thoughts and emotions, we start to notice that I am actually not my thoughts, but I am the thinker of my thoughts. And I am not my emotions, but I am the feeler of my emotions. And then I can start, leading myself.
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to give you some questions from our community members. So are there deeper reasons to practice mindfulness other than for stress reduction?
Oh, yeah. Many. Stress reduction is maybe the most obvious and in these times especially, but actually I would say that I always have this hidden agenda when teaching mindfulness, because we tend to rush through our lives. We rush through from meeting to meeting and day to day and week to week and even from year to year, waiting for the next thing to happen.
We forget to enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and it's not only about enjoying, because each moment is not, joyful. So it's more just being present, because, even this day is a day of my life. And if I'm not present there, my body is here in today, isn't it?
Yes.
But if my mind is somewhere else, where am I? Where am I when my life happens if I'm not present in those moments? And that's actually the deeper meaning of mindfulness, that we really can be present in our lives, also in the unpleasant moments, because also those are parts of my life. And mindfulness can make those easier to bear somehow. Mindfulness will never take away our problems. It will not change our lives in that sense, but it can it will not make our lives easier, but it can make them easier to live.
To cope with.
Yeah.
Sam Ivani asks, what kind of process do you follow when preparing for a keynote speech?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, firstly, I talk with the client and ask, obviously go through what they are looking for and what kind of audience there is and what to expect, and if they want to have some pre-assignments or whatever. So talking with the client first. And then I try to understand a little bit about the audience, that what might be of interest for them. Although, as I'm talking about the human mind, it's usually of interest to everybody because we all share the same humanity.
Yeah.
But then trying to build somehow a narrative that is interesting, and there's a little bit of humor as well, and then kind of bringing it all together. So yeah.
I'd like to ask you, what's your thing as a speaker? Everyone has their own little niche. What's your thing?
I would have to guess that it's the kind of intensive presence that I feel that I have, and I have received feedback on that I'm very much present in my presentations.
Thanks to mindfulness.
Yeah, probably.
Robson Lindberg asked, how has your leadership style evolved over the past 20 years?
Well, I have become more and more myself and more kind of human and showing my own vulnerabilities. So really being more present, not trying to, do leadership as much as be a leader, maybe.
How has mindfulness impacted your leadership skills?
Very much in the sense of really being present. And for example, in discussions with somebody, with a team member or really trying to just be there and be present and hear what he or she is saying instead of preparing my response somehow or trying to solve problems rather than just being there and kind of being available, maybe.
Would it stand true then that some leaders have the answer already prepared? They don't care what the employee is saying. They're just willing to respond.
Yeah.
You sound like a very good leader.
Thank you.
Alexandra Petrova asks, how do you stick with practicing mindfulness? What are the first steps to make it right, she asks?
Yeah, if you mean by practicing, you mean the formal practicing, the meditation exercises. You can just start by downloading any application. There are dozens of applications, so just choose something, and then just do it. Just a short, for 60 seconds is good. So just find a spot in your home, for example, a chair or a cushion or whatever, and sit there for 60 seconds and do nothing. Mindfulness or practicing mindfulness or meditation can also be called active non-doing. So I'm actively not doing, and it's not the same as doing nothing, because we are very much doing something there, because it's a moment of being truly focused and present and awake, but not getting distracted and not trying to solve any problems or remembering or whatever, but just being there for yourself. So it's active non-doing. And if you can, put in 60 seconds of active non-doing today, it's already good.
I think I will try to do that, but that means no phone, right?
No phone, yeah.
Thank you so much for that. I have one last question. Mm-hmm. If you could give any piece of advice to someone aspiring to become a public speaker, what would that be?
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah?
Yeah, because we easily, even experienced speakers, are quite harsh on ourselves, and we kind of tend to remember the parts that did not go well, or where I did not have the perfect answer or something. We are all human. And the more you are yourself and bring something from yourself to the scene, the more interesting you are. So just be yourself and be kind to yourself.
Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you again. This was wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you. My pleasure.